This podcast does not provide medical advice. Please listen to the complete disclosure at the end of the recording.
Hello, all you cats and kittens. Welcome to Everyone Dies, the podcast. I'm Marianne Matzo.
And I'm Charlie Navarrete.
So grab your adult beverage or whatever you feel like drinking. Maybe a cup of tea, some dessert, some dinner, a hot dog, I don't know. Relax, and thank you for spending the next hour with Charlie and I as we have some ideas to serve at a Southern funeral. In the second half, I'm going to be talking about the death of a pet. And in the third half, Charlie and I will be doing a scene from Marley and Me for our section called Funeral Theater, where we put the fun in funeral. So, Charlie, today we're going to explore part 2 of our story about food served at a Southern funeral.
Says you. Yes, we are. Yes.
Last week, we talked about how Southern Living magazine did a story about classic comfort dishes that you'll see on every Southern funeral spread. So, what are you going to tempt us with this week?
So I guess Popeye's old hat. So even if I discuss it north of the Mason-Dixon line. So, well, in general, like what we said before, Southern food is all about providing comfort to those in attendance and, to those not in attendance, honoring, people who have died, who have checked out, who are 6 feet under, who have 86'd. Well, you get the gist of it. Kick the bucket. So we're going to continue our conversation about some more of Southern, comfort classics, comfort dishes that generally you do see at most Southern funerals. So, for example, baked macaroni and cheese.
God, I love that food.
And with this, Marianne, I'm sorry, I have to ask you a personal question. With or without? And when I say with or without, breadcrumbs.
Oh, man. You know what? When I have leftover like sourdough bread that somebody hasn't eaten
No, I'm
in the
sorry.
house,
I have to cut you off right there.
No. I make it into breadcrumbs and put it in the freezer so that then when I make macaroni and cheese, I sprinkle that on top. It is heaven.
No, you're wrong. I don't. You know what? I don't know. I just grew up with without that. Even simple macaroni and cheese from a box, which doesn't compare to homemade.
They didn't have boxes of macaroni and cheese when you were a kid. You're too freaking old.
That's not true. When did?
Yes, it is.
Really? No. Really?
Yes. If my mom made macaroni and cheese, it was with a box of macaroni and...
When I was 17.
What kind of cheese did your mom use?
Whatever was on sale.
My mom used Velveeta.
Because
that melted the best.
Not Velveeta.
No?
No, I'm going to... I don't... I'd have to ask my sister. I'm going to guess it was cheddar. It was something yellow.
Velveeta's yellow.
Yes, but I know it wasn't Velveeta. This is sacrilege to say, but I've never been a fan of Velveeta. And I don't remember my mom ever cooking with Velveeta.
Oh, the best cheese and tomato sandwiches with Velveeta?
No.
Come on, you haven't lived.
Nah. Okay, well, wait a minute. So did your mom use breadcrumbs on the macaroni and cheese?
I don't think she did.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember.
But I do.
I don't remember when this phenomena came into existence.
Because if you can add carbs to carbs, it just makes it that much better.
You know what? I don't know. I am assuming there's a certain type of breadcrumb which does not taste grainy. Because for me, every time I've had macaroni and cheese with breadcrumbs, people just grind these breadcrumbs down to their molecular level. It's just too grainy. I want to taste the cheese mixed in with the pasta. And for me, that graininess from breadcrumbs just takes it away. takes that away.
You're like the princess and the pea. You can feel the pea, and you can feel the graininess. You are just a delicate flower, Charles.
That's true. Ask what everyone says of me. I'm a delicate flower. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Nevertheless,
so, macaroni and cheese.
With or without, it's like, where am I? And really, the gist of it, with or without breadcrumbs, it's macaroni and cheese. It's creamy, it's cheesy, or if you prefer, it's cheesy
macaroni.
And it's creamy. It's macaroni. It's macaroni and cheese, and you can't go wrong. Unless
you can't.
Unless you have breadcrumbs. Another southern delicacy, and this I've never had, ham biscuits. So basically, you have your basic homemade biscuits. Though I'm sure maybe sometimes they're out of a can or something, but homemade biscuits.
What? In the South, out of a can?
Well, sometimes maybe
go self-flagellate. I mean, what the heck are you talking about?
Folks are in a hurry or something, and
nobody's in that much of a hurry.
Okay, well, I guess I've been in the North too long then. Okay, so let me backtrack, please. So, homemade biscuits,
right,
with ham. So you have to take Porky out from the barn, because you want everything fresh. If you're going to have fresh biscuits, you need fresh pork. So you take Porky out of, I don't need to go into detail where the ham comes from.
It comes from the smokehouse that's already done all that other stuff. So, yeah.
Okay. So basically ham and biscuits. I mean, that's it. It's fresh. It's homemade. It's just, it sounds simple, but then on top of it, you can put anything you want.
Peanut butter, jelly.
I would, on top of the ham, I would probably put bacon. I'm just that kind of a guy. That many times more is better.
Absolutely. If it's worth doing, Charlie, it's worth overdoing.
That's true. And if you're going to have bacon with the ham, you better have some butter on that biscuit too.
Oh, without saying,
just add to the glory. Yes.
You have a hot biscuit. I don't think there's even purgatory for people who don't put butter on that.
And there's just something. Well, sometimes people have honey. Use honey on it. It's okay, but yeah, there's just something about a hot biscuit.
There's not enough fat in honey.
There's no. There's just something about a hot biscuit with butter that's just a little cold, but still spreadable, and that just melts, and it just the whole combo just melts in your mouth.
It's heaven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there we are, ham biscuits, and the other thing that was what they were talking about. I'm okay. It's called chicken spaghetti casserole. Now,
doesn't that just kind of blow your mind in a lot of different ways?
Yeah, none of them positive. But the idea of a casserole, in the South and the North, it doesn't matter where, but in the South, is that idea that you can just take a whole bunch of different ingredients. It doesn't have to be chicken, but just anything. You throw it in a casserole, but you do have to have a touch, a taste for, how much cheese to add, if you want to throw in pasta, of course, butter. Some folks like it hot. And so, a dash.
That'd be a good movie.
I know.
I know.
Tell somebody. Imagine the cast. A little
but if you're going to
spicy.
make a chicken spaghetti casserole, you got to have spaghetti.
I can't put those two words together. Chicken casserole or chicken spaghetti. Sorry, chicken spaghetti. But if you want chicken spaghetti,
you've had chicken parmesan. Isn't that always served over spaghetti? Or some sort of pasta?
All right, so here we go again with my taste buds. I don't like chicken parm. I know.
So what is it? Are you a purist, or what's the problem?
Well, no, I don't know. To me, it's a strange combination. However, shrimp parm, I don't know why. I don't care. The only like Parmesan type topping covering thingamajiggy, shrimp.
See, I love eggplant
I was
parm.
going to say, yeah, most people I know love eggplant Parmesan. A lot of different types of Parmesan. I don't know, just have never. Yeah.
Hmm. Sounds like a therapy issue.
Yes. What was Rodney Dangerfield? Oh, Dr. Vinny Zumba. No, Vinny. I'll have to look that up. Yes, Rodney Dangerfield's therapist, psychiatrist. But getting back to it, yeah. So with a casserole, and that's yeah, you can follow a recipe, but following a recipe for something like this is no good. But in the South, they just know a little dash of this, a shake of that, just enough to put in to enhance the flavor. In this case, chicken spaghetti. But if you have beef or veal, pork, I don't know. People just have that talent, that gift of just knowing what to add and how much to add.
See, I just clean out the fridge and make a casserole, and voila.
There we are. I just
There you go.
I just pick up the phone and order it. And so there we are. I mean, just a few more examples of what folks cook in the South for a funeral. Yeah, it is about. I mean, food is comfort, and at a time like that, people want to be comforted. People want comfort.
Well, yeah, food is comfort, even if it's not at a funeral.
Yeah.
So all of these recipes you can find on our. Oh, well, I was going to say you can find on our website, everyonedies.org.
And how is that spelled? Everyonedies.org.
It's EVERY, number 1, dies.org.
Got it. And we hope you folks will send us your own recipes to share with others. In addition to that, we appreciate your questions, jokes, and anything else you want to tell us. Mostly. You can email us at everyonedies.org. Again, number 1, dies.org. And please join our Facebook group, Everyone Dies. And also, please remember to rate and review this podcast. Molly, our fabulous Twitter wench, is hoping you contribute to her self-actualization by following us on Twitter and reposting her tweets.
So you know what I heard the other day?
The original Beatle version. No, that was without a guitar. No, actually, I have no idea.
That Carol Baskin from Tiger King, or as Tiger King calls her, that bitch Carol Baskin, but I'm not calling her that. I'm just saying that's what he calls her. That she was going to be on Dancing with the Stars.
Dancing with what?
You know what I think would be really cool is if they got the Tiger King out of jail
all right.
and put the two of them together, and they could do a jungle kind of theme dance, like Tarzan Jane, or
I thought you were going to say her and I don't know, a real life tiger, but I think just a Tiger King would be enough.
Well, real life tiger. I mean, I don't know how well they could learn all the choreography.
I don't either, but if they'd get frustrated or hungry, they'd be all set.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so the other thing I want to tell you is I started this Netflix series that within the first 5 minutes I was totally addicted to.
Oh.
Have you seen The Hunters?
Oh. Yes. Yes, I have.
Are you in it? You're in it, aren't you?
Well, yes and no. Yes. I filmed a lengthy scene with. Yes, I was. But the scene I filmed was pretty much cut.
Pretty much, or are you there a little bit?
I'm there a little bit.
What episode?
Pooh. 6, 7. I would have to find it. It's something like episode 6 or 7.
What were you doing?
I was it's a wedding reception.
Where the daughter gets married? The daughter of what's her name? Carolyn. No.
Carol Kane and Paul.
Carol Kane
and Saul. Sorry, Saul.
Yeah.
Saul Rudnick. Very nice guy. We had a very nice chat too. Basically, So it's at the reception, and
what are you doing?
I don't know why, but they put me at the bar and I'm having a drink. So I'm sitting
now
there.
I got to go back and look for it.
Well, you're not going to find it. So I'm sitting there, having a drink. I get up and I run into my old friend, Al Pacino. So, yeah, I thought I told you this. Sorry.
No, you did not.
Oh,
I just want our listeners to know that 9 times out of 10, I'm watching something and then I say, "Oh my God, there's Charlie!" Literally, just like that, because he doesn't tell me what he's in.
I'm very shy. So and I know I need to. Okay. So anyway, in this scene with Pacino,
you actually got to talk to Pacino.
Oh, it was baby. It was more than talk. So he, the assistant director introduces us. He puts his hand out. Very nice man, and he says, "Hi, I'm Al." And I looked at him. I said, Al. Okay, I think I'll remember that. And he started to laugh. That was a good sign. And I said, Charlie, and just said, so what are we going to do here? And I'm thinking, Al Pacino's asking me for professional advice. Okay. I said, I don't know. Let's say, obviously, we're old pals, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we came up with a scenario. And basically that was it. So it's, I'm walking from the bar. I run into Al. We make up a little thing, and he notices out of the corner of his eye the guy he's waiting to talk to, says goodbye. I walk away. He goes his way. It was. I had to calm down because all I kept thinking was, okay, this is Al Pacino. He smiled at me. I made him laugh. This is Al Pacino. It took a couple of takes for me to get that out of my head because I realized I'm not focusing on the moment. Mm. So when I finally got it out of my head, that's when the director said, "We have enough takes, so we're good. Al, you can go back to one." I said, "Charlie, yeah, thanks, nice job." And there we are. So I waited for the episode to come out. Finally saw it. No scene. It just shows Al going to the person he was there to see.
So they don't even show you at the bar or anything?
Nope, nothing, honey.
Oh, I didn't miss you. You just weren't there. Well, I want our listeners to know that I didn't know any of this, but I am truly obsessed with watching this thing. For the last 2 nights.
It's been it's been renewed.
Well, I'm not through the first season yet.
Oh, okay. But just to throw it out for anyone who doesn't know, it's been renewed. I'm not going to say anything else because those of you who have seen it might be wondering how or why. But you'll it's enjoyable.
Have you watched the whole thing?
Yes.
So do you know what I mean by the first 5 minutes? You're like, holy crap,
yep.
What just happened?
Yep. Yeah.
And then you're hooked. But I was talking with David about this because he was diving this weekend and I've been like binge watching the show. And he said, well, but there really was this effort to bring Nazis into this country for their intellect and that we are on the moon because of a Nazi.
Werner von Braun. Absolutely. Yep.
So there was a piece of history I knew nothing about. And I always feel so stupid when I'm 63 years old and I'm finally learning like pieces of history that somehow have eluded me my whole life. Like where the heck have I been?
I don't think there's anything stupid as long as, just we learn at different times.
Did you know about that before you did that thing with Al?
With the Nazi things, yes. I knew more about von Braun because my childhood dream was to become an astronaut. So, But yeah, the whole thing, yeah, and it just also too that New York was part of that, and it was just also interesting to see how they dressed the streets and places and made it look really sleazy 1970s New York City.
You know what one of the things I really noticed was the scenes on the subway, how filthy, dirty, all the papers and stuff on
absolutely.
the subway. I thought, wow, it doesn't, you know it's not that way now, but when you see it how it was then, you're like, oh yeah, that really was a mess.
Oh yeah. I visited here a lot in the 80s. That there's no exaggeration about that. It was yeah.
Well, anyway, I just want to tell people that is really wonderful. And it's probably because I'm delaying having to talk about our second half, Death of a Pet. Yeah. And, of all the podcasts that I've written, I think this is like our 31st one or something. This was really hard for me to kind of write. And I think in a great part is that we have 14-year-old Australian shepherd named Dimple Rose, who, their lifespan is like 9 or 10 years. So I've been doing palliative care on her and pain management so she can still run with us, and recreational eating, which, we've talked about on other podcasts, and really optimizing the end of her life. And I think, because I've always been one of these people who go 6 steps ahead, is I think about, I'm just going to really miss this puppy. Yeah. So in writing this, it was like, I don't want, this forced me to think about it. So let's talk about the death of animals. Pets are our family. They represent love and acceptance. And when I have 2 daughters, they're 14 months apart, 13 and a half months apart. And when they were in high school, which anybody who has daughters knows that that's just a hell time of a girl's life. And especially if you're the mom, I'd be going to a volleyball game. My daughter played volleyball, and she'd say, well, let me see what you're going to wear. It was just,
Sometimes you just want to pinch them. Yeah.
It was just a hard time. And I decided I was going to get a dog, and I got this dog on Craigslist. It was part lab, part border collie. And the girls were like, why are you getting a dog? I said, because I want someone to be happy to see me when I come home. And they looked at me and rolled their eyes and went about their lives. But it was true. It's like when when I don't want to say they picked on me, but when everyone's picking on you, you want someone who's just going to look you in the eyes and just say, if they could talk, I just love you. Because that's what I think he would say if he could talk.
Yeah, unconditional love, yes.
Yeah. Relationships with our pets is simple. It's simpler than relationships that we have with people. There's no conflicts over politics or religion or what we're going to have for dinner. Pets are non-judgmental, like you said. There's unconditional love. They are happy because we're there. I can, like with Harley, you'd let him out one door, and a minute later let him in another door, and he would be so darn happy to see you. It'd be like, it's been 2 seconds, but every time he saw you was like the first time. They don't care if we shower, if we stay in our pajamas all day. They just like the fact that we're there.
Yeah.
When they die, though, we feel that acute loss that really does deserve acknowledgement. But typically, this loss ends up being what's called disenfranchised grief for the human. Now, disenfranchised grief is any grief that's not acknowledged or validated by social norms. So often you hear about disenfranchised grief, like if you're a woman and you're having an affair with a married man, and that man dies. Well, you're grieving the loss of that relationship and that man's death, but you can't go to the funeral. You can't go to the funeral home. Nobody's going to say, oh, I'm so sorry your lover is dead. They'll say, well, you shouldn't have been doing with the married man. It's true, sometimes in same-sex relationships, you can be living as man and wife, maybe haven't gotten married, or not man and wife, but wife and wife, husband and husband. And you might not have gotten married, but that person's death is can go unacknowledged. It's not considered to be the same. So that's what disenfranchised grief is. But that's also true with pets. It's like, well, my dog died, my cat died. It's like, yeah, so it's a dog. Go get another one. But if you've had that pet for 14 years, it's not just
a piece of furniture.
Oh, let's go get it. It's not just, let's go get another one.
Right.
Because those animals have their own personality, even if it's, it's their personality plus it's like whatever we layer on top of them. Like with Dimple, I speak for her quite frequently, and she's always telling somebody to, go take a leap or whatever. She's very sassy in the things that she says to David primarily. And, it's that, we've given her a personality. We've given her humanness in addition to what she has of her own. So the grief, this disenfranchised grief, is often minimized, and it's not understood by other people, especially when they don't have pets or they don't know what that relationship's like. And it's hard to process and it's hard to work through. And if you can't do that, then it's going to make it really difficult to fully grieve that pet. Like if nobody's acknowledging, this is really sad, this is really hard, your dog died, then how is it that you are able to grieve? And as a society, we know this doing this show, we don't like to talk about death. And the death of a pet can be even more minimized because, hey, this isn't something I want to talk about anyway, let alone your darn dog. We might be told by people, just get another pet and move on.
Right.
Go to the ASPCA, get yourself a dog or whatever.
People minimize your grief because it's, quote, just a dog. Yeah.
Right.
Or just a cat or whatever. Yeah.
So we have to grieve that loss. I was talking to my brother. He turned 70 this year, and I said something about his dog Peaches. He says, Peaches died a few years ago. I said, did you get another dog? And he said, nope. He said, I've got to wait until I'm old enough that I'll die before my dog does because I don't want to go through that again.
Wow. And
I said, wow, that's profound if you think about it. It's like,
it is, yeah.
He really hurt. And I said, I'm the younger sister. So I said, well, you're 70 now. Most dogs, live 10, 15 years. I said, I think you're safe to get one now. And he's like, he truly did not appreciate that comment. But, what can I tell you? The death of a pet can hurt as much or more than the death of a family member.
Sure.
There was a study in the New England, in the Journal of Mental Health Counseling that asked a group of dog owners to place symbols for their family members and pets in a circle. So what you do is you draw a circle, which is you, and you put the people and your pets, into the circle. And the distance between the subjects and the person and the other symbols correspond to relative, real-life closeness of relationships. And I've done this with patients, when they say, well, I don't know who I can count on. It's like, well, let's draw a circle. Put yourself in the center. Where do you put the different people? Where do you put, like in my case with counseling people, it's like, who are the people you can count on for different things? And where are they in your circle? This one was looking to see, well, where do the pets go? The people tended to put the dog closer than their average family member and about as close as the closest family member. In 38% of the cases, the dog was closest of all.
I'm not surprised.
So research comparing grief over the death of pets to that over the death of friends and family members has come up with different answers. There was an article in the journal Society in Animals that reviewed multiple studies found that the death of a companion animal can be just as devastating as the loss of a human significant other. Not quite as severe, but more intense, or at least the same. Now, I was reading an essay by Joe Yonan in the Washington Post, and he's talking about the death of his dog. And he said that there's so many rituals that we have with our pets. So he was talking about over the course of 13 years, the same thing would happen with Gromit, his dog, every morning. He says, I would sit on my bed to put on my shoes, and he would drape himself across my lap. I would scratch his butt, and he would reward me with a big sloppy kiss. Recently, I did the math. Accounting for the times I was traveling without him, this interaction happened more than 4,000 times. It makes sense that when he died, it was months before I could touch my shoelaces without expecting also touch from him. I had no idea what to do with my mornings without my pooch to require that small gesture from me. And think about, we can all think about the things that are, part of our rituals with our pets, and what a tremendous loss it is when they're no longer there to share that with.
Yeah.
Now, some people feel surprise and even shame that they're grieving more for their pet than maybe they did for a sibling or for a parent. But when they realize that the difference is that the pet gave them constant companionship, that there was total dependency, they can begin to realize why they're grieving so intensely. So what are some of the things that help? First, start with acknowledgement. Think of your loss exactly the same way you would as any significant loss. Pay attention to how you're feeling and validate for yourself that you're experiencing an incredible loss. Because you see people say, oh yeah, my dog died last night, and sometimes I'll stop and say, oh my God, what happened? And they seem almost surprised that someone's taking the time to talk with them about that. And I've always been one to send sympathy cards. I mean, long before they made sympathy cards for when your pet has died, I'd always send sympathy cards to my friends because that's a significant loss.
Yeah.
Second, realize that grief has its own time frame and that everyone's time frame is unique. So you can go back to our podcast on everyonedies.org and listen to the grief podcast because that applies in this case also. There's also the traumatic grief podcast, which applies if, your pet is hit by a car or something sudden and traumatic happens to it.
Right.
My kids were, what was it, 6 years ago or so? We had this little teeny weeny chihuahua. She was little. Her name was Lily, and she was laying on the porch in the sun, and this dog just attacked her out of nowhere and
Wow.
shook her to death.
Oh.
And she died in Julie's arms. And, we reported and went through all that, but we buried Lily in the backyard and put a little statue over her gravesite because the girls always called her the squirrel because she kind of looked like a squirrel. So I had this little squirrel statue to memorialize her. Well, I recently, just a couple days ago, I sold the house. And the girls were there as we were frantically packing, doing last-minute packing. And Rose goes out to the pet cemetery and takes the squirrel and says to Julie, you should take this. And we're all looking at it, it's like covered in ants. I said, nobody's taking that, Rose. Go put it back. She says, well, if I'm putting it back, then we have to go together and say a few words for Lily. So this is, 23 and 24-year-old women. We go out to the pet cemetery, put the squirrel back down, and reminisce about Lily. So these rituals are important.
Yeah.
These deaths are important. And it's not just about, putting the bird in a shoebox and burying it. It's, talking about that pet, talking about her death, even if it's talking about how weird she was, whatever it is, making that memory and saying goodbye and saying thank you. If you're experiencing grief, remember that nothing will be gained by pressuring yourself to get over it. Instead, the healing process takes time. You'll always tell stories about what your pet did. Let yourself experience that range of emotion. Keep up with healthy daily routines and be gentle with yourself when things are difficult. When a pet dies, there are many people in your life who are not going to understand your grief. Some people have never experienced a deep connection with an animal, making it hard for them to empathize with those who deeply grieve the loss of a pet. Find someone who understands your experience and talk to them. And mourn your pet. Have a memorial service or a funeral. Let people see your grief so that they can be supportive of you. Honor your pet for all that they gave you and memorialize them when they die. Another thing that might be interesting for you to do is listen to our radio show that we're going to put out this week on Passionate World Talk Radio, where I interview Lucy Morgenstern, a pet doula. Now, a pet doula supports people and pets in that last chapter of their life. She offers a lot of insight into this honoring of your pet after their death. So if you click on radio shows on our webpage, Everyone Dies, you can look for the interview that we did with Lucy Morgenstern. And, you know, I found it just fascinating talking to Lucy. She's an incredible woman.
Yeah, she really is.
So we have some resources on our webpage that you can look at, and that might be helpful to you. And there's a documentary there about Lucy Morgenstern and a New York Times article about Lucy, and some other articles that might be helpful to you. Have you ever had a pet die, Charlie?
Yes. We didn't have any pets growing up. My mom was just not a fan of pets. But when I got married, my ex, she always wanted a dog. So we got a dog. And so, yeah, for like 16, 17 years, there was always a dog in the house. And when Michael was born, he just grew up from the start with a dog. And eventually he and his girlfriend got a dog of their own, which did not amuse his mother because he didn't mention it to her. She just walked in the door one day and it's like, why is there another dog here? So yeah.
Yep. That's what kids do.
Yeah,
surprise,
crazy kids. So, but no, I mean, I've never gone out and actually bought a pet, but for like the last 20 something years, 25 years, been around pets.
Yeah.
And with that too, what you were saying about people need to learn to grieve their own way. Also, too, some, like you said, sometimes well-meaning people, but other times people can be, what's the word I'm looking for that I can say on the radio? Well, okay, let's just say insensitive. People sometimes just want to tell you how you should be grieving also. Don't let them. It's your grief. You grieve the way you need to grieve.
You do your girl.
Yeah, you go, girl. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So for our third half, we're going to do funeral theater, which is always a fun event. And this is a scene from Marley and Me. I don't know if you've read the book or seen the movie. Charlie's going to give us a synopsis, but the dog, Marley, let me just say, is a yellow lab. And yellow labs are the nuttiest kinds of dogs you can have. They're kind of yahoos. They have lots of energy, and just if Dennis the Menace was a dog, he'd be a yellow lab.
Okay. So, Marley and Me. I'm sure a lot of you have seen the movie, but basically, This couple, after their wedding, they're both newspaper writers, John and Jennifer Grogan. They moved to Florida. So basically, they don't want to quite have a child now. Well, she does more than John does, but in an effort to push back her biological clock, John gives her a puppy, and the puppy named Marley grows into a 100-pound dog, but loses none of his puppy energy or rambunctiousness. And in the meantime, additionally, he has no self-discipline, or is not able to, learn, to be disciplined. So, Marley's antics and craziness give John rich material for his newspaper column. As the Grovers mature and have children, Marley continues to just test everyone's patience by acting like the world's most impulsive dog. And that's basically, the background of all this.
So what's happened is, you see Marley as a puppy, and the scene that we're going to do is very much right at the end of the movie. As with, pets and people, everyone dies. And so this is at the end of the film, Marley reaches the end of his life, and Charlie's going to play John the whole time, and I'm going to be everybody else. So
this is when multiple personalities come in handy.
Yes, and Marley has no lines, so it's just.
Okay.
So you ready, Charlie?
Yep, let's rock and roll.
Okay. I can't get him to come back inside. He's just laying out there in the cold and he won't move. Dr. Platt said if he's comfortable, leave him for a while and see, but he's just not getting better.
All right. I'm going to take him in. I'm going to take him into the doctor, and they're going to try to make him feel better.
Oh, it's all right, Marley. You're going to be okay. You can take Lambie, but don't chew off her other ear, okay? Goodbye.
So in the next scene, hi, hey, it's me. So it's his stomach again, and they could do surgery, but
I know. You want me to come down there?
No. I think it's a good idea to stay with the kids and be with them. I'm just gonna go.
I love you, John.
I love you too. In the next scene, talking to Marley. Look what I've got for you. Remember this? What did Colleen say to you? You remember that? You remember chewing up that ear? Well, it's tough to remember all the things you've chewed up, isn't it? It all starts to kind of run together. It's okay. It's okay. You don't have to do anything. You don't have your usual energy. You remember how we were always saying what a pain you are, that you're the world's worst dog? Hey, don't believe it. Don't believe any of it for a minute, because we couldn't find a better dog. You know what made you such a great dog is you loved us every day, no matter what. That's an amazing thing. You know how much we love you. I love you so much. I love you more than anything. I don't know exactly where we go from here, but I want you to remember you're a great dog, Marley. You're a great dog.
He won't feel this. He'll just slip away. You ready?
Yeah, we're ready. A dog has no use for fancy cars or big homes or designer clothes. A waterlogged stick will do just fine. A dog doesn't care if you're rich or poor, clever or dumb, smart or dumb. Give him your heart and he'll give you his. How many people can you say that about? How many people can make you feel rare and pure and special? How many people can make you feel extraordinary?
Scene. You can watch the scene. We're going to put the link on with this podcast so you can watch the actual scene if you dare.
If you dare. So, thank you all for listening. Please stay tuned for future episodes of Everyone Dies. Our thanks to our executive producer, retired Major General David, our producer Sandy, John, our technical advisor, Molly, our Twitter correspondent, and our friends, family, and loyal listeners who are supporting our work at Everyone Dies. This is Charlie Navarrete.
And I'm Marianne Matzo, and we look forward to talking with you soon. Remember, every day's a gift.
This podcast does not provide medical advice. All discussion on this podcast, such as treatments, dosages, outcomes, charts, patient profiles, advice, messages, and any other discussion are for informational purposes only and are not a substitute for professional medical advice or treatment. Always seek the advice of your primary care practitioner or other qualified health providers with any questions that you may have regarding your health. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard from this podcast. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor or 911 immediately. Everyone Dies does not recommend or endorse any specific tests, practitioners, products, procedures, opinions, or other information that may be mentioned in this podcast. Reliance on any information provided in this podcast by persons appearing on this podcast at the invitation of Everyone Dies or by other members is solely at your own risk.